Healthy femininity and masculinity is self-control, not crashing out. Had a wonderful conversation in a group call last week with a group of men as we do our regular routine check-ins, and upon that conversation we got on the topic of masculinity and femininity. It was in this conversation that we began to point out and use references for certain things that is happening in the relationship space, people giving their thoughts and opinions on masculinity and femininity. One thing that was made clear in that entire call was the perspective that all of us have masculine and feminine traits in us, men and women. By natural design, men are more masculine. Women ought to be more feminine. And by not leaning into the more predominant energy, masculinity for men, femininity for women, we are simply fighting against the design. One thing that is made clear, that I want to make clear in this conversation with each other here, gone are the days of masculinity being taken away or ripped away due to your favorite color being pink or purple and sitting on the toilet when you pee. Gone are the days of women being considered feminine. They look pretty, got their hair done, nails done, and everything did. Because at the end of the day, masculinity and femininity is an energy. It's not something determined specifically by one and done actions or one and done behaviors. With that being said, allow me to share with you what I shared with the call, that when it comes to emotions and when it comes to dealing with emotions, men who allow themselves to pursue after every urge and have no signs of self-control in their words and in their behaviors are more feminine than they are masculine. Because when it comes to healthy masculinity, it is not emotions that dictate your behaviors. It is your thinking that your emotions are filtered through that then allows you to dictate your next moves and behaviors. I said, let's take this for example. We'll use a dating relationship. Let's say a guy and a girl get into a relationship and they get into an argument. And the man not only begins to grow aggressive in his verbiage, starts cussing around, fussing, all that kind of stuff, but then he begins to throw things. He may even begin to approach her aggressively and hit on her as a means of dealing with the disagreement and argument that's taking place. Even though he's a male, he's not a man. Even though he's a male, in that moment, he is more feminine than anyone else in the room. Because putting your hands on a woman is feminine energy. Crashing out is feminine energy. Because you don't have the self-control to be able to navigate this conversation and disagreement in a way that is productive and helpful to the both of you. But let's not just leave it to the men, because let's turn it around. Let's say it happens the opposite direction. The woman begins to throw things, cuss, fuss, and even threatens to put her hands on the man. That is still feminine energy, but it's not because she's moving in an appropriate, esteemed feminine energy. She's moving in an energy that is lacking self-control and an energy that now becomes dangerous and hazardous to the environment around her. And just because she crashes out or she moves and responds on her emotions doesn't make her behaviors be a healthy feminine option. It just means she lacks self-control. That is what we like to call toxic femininity and toxic masculinity. Things that this culture parades around and yet still is responsible for cultivating unhealthy relationships. And you know, the biggest thing between the two energies that are really required in order to move healthily is not your esteemed knowledge. Again, it's not how much weight you lift as a man or how pretty you look outwardly as a woman with lip gloss, hair did, nails did, and everything did. But really it comes down to having a spiritual foundation. A spiritual foundation that actually allows us to operate in a place of self-control, being able to say no to the urges that we may experience bodily in efforts of creating safe environments, because we are safe people. And one of the ways that you can determine whether or not you're living in a healthy masculinity or healthy femininity-like aspect is actually whether or not you are living by Galatians 5:22. The fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, meekness, gentleness, self-control. Self-control being a massive part to operating at a healthy masculinity and femininity. Because the moment that you do not begin to filter your emotions and use them as information to then filter them through your thinking and mental capacity, you will become a D1 crash out. And instead of keeping the major things major, we begin majoring in minor things, actually causing more harm to the relationships than we ever would bring any good. So please know that when it comes to roles, when it comes to perspective, when it comes to lanes in relationships, please keep in mind that in two people in a partnership, somebody has to be the masculine and somebody has to be the feminine. And even though there are differences between the two by design, it is important to know that both are called to live in a healthier version. And the moment both people or one of the two turn into living in a toxic version of their masculinity and femininity, self-control is not present and emotions are in the driver's seat. And if you choose not to pour into yourself and invest into yourself in healthy ways, with morning routines, meditations, prayer, Bible readings, being able to really partner with your emotions and efforts of not allowing them to control your behaviors, but telling your emotions how you are going to operate without minimizing how you feel, you will continue to perpetuate to the toxic masculinity and femininity aspect and graduate top of your class and crash out 101, which doesn't bring about healthy relationships in your life. It only continues to push the right people away from you, and in the end causing you to be a bad steward because you're fighting the design and not operating in the right energy that causes you to bring about the right relationships. I hope this made sense. If it did, I want you to type "caught it" in the comment section below. Follow for more so we continue navigating through our healing, new relationships, right way we start to do work on ourselves first, but sometimes it's like us being honest about masculine and feminine energy, seeing that they're energies. And because somebody has to be the masculine and someone else has to be the feminine, we have to decide to move and lean in the predominant designed energies in a healthy way that actually allows us to live in a more harmonious and peaceful relationships with a spiritual foundation that includes self-control.